The government of the People's Republic of China and the government of the United States have had great differences. We will have differences in the future. But what we must do is to find a way to see that we can have differences without being enemies in war.
We're continuing a relationship, and I think that's a very important point. Starting with President Nixon's famous visit to China in the 1970s.
General Haig, Dr. Kissinger, President Nixon, Zhou Enlai, Mao Zedong. The risks they took 40 years ago at the height of the Vietnam War to realize that our two nations had mutual interests.
The U.S.-China relationship is one of the most important relationships in today's geopolitical structure. Our nations are going to be joined with strategic engagement at all levels. It's important that our two nations have a relationship where we can communicate freely and openly about issues that concern both countries.
We need China as much as they need us. It was an athletic event. Ping-pong diplomacy between our two countries started the public demonstration that we could compete together, but in a peaceful manner through athletics. Cultural events have been milestones in building this relationship, and now, of course, we have our two bands.
This exchange was actually initially agreed to as far back as 2009, when then Chief of Staff of the Army, General Casey, visited his Chinese counterpart here in China. The two generals agreed that there were several areas where the U.S. Army and the People's Liberation Army could cooperate and interact.
And one of the events that was discussed was the potential for an exchange between the Premier Band of the United States Army and the Premier Band of the People's Liberation Army.
On behalf of the men and women of the United States Army, it is my great pleasure as the 37th Chief of Staff to welcome all of you to the Kennedy Center for this historic event.
The first band exchange was actually the Chinese band visit to the United States in May of 2011.
When the Chinese military band came to the United States, performed at the Kennedy Center and on the floor of the United Nations General Assembly.
And the United Nations performance perhaps received more global publicity than any publicity made possible by China or the United States. The United Nations understood how important this was.
Here we are now in 2012, and we've reached the point where the United States Army Band is going to make a reciprocal visit. And so while we're just going to play music, it really is important in establishing the relationship, particularly between our two militaries.
Friendship and cooperation through music. For the second time, the United States Army Band, Pershing Zone, and the military band of the People's Liberation Army of China will jointly perform.
Moving this great operation that we have here, the United States Army Band, to the other side of the world it has a lot of challenges to it. People may think that we have the luxury of just spending this couple weeks or so preparing for these concerts in China. Well, nothing could be further from the truth.
The week before leaving for China has been quite a challenge for all of us, I'm sure. I know for myself personally.
The normal job of Pershing Zone just keeps on going with high-level dignitaries visiting, the daily task of performing funerals and other memorial honors in Arlington National Cemetery and around the nation's capital. With all these other things going on, and the soldiers preparing themselves personally to pack and get all those provisions necessary to go to China, they have to, at the same time, maintain all the normal things that they need to do to perform their job.
And preparing the music as well. You know, a great deal of personal practice time goes into these events that no one really sees. That's kind of behind the scene.
We're going to load everything up and move it to China,
Right now, we're doing a dry run of all of the instruments in the big cases. So everybody has to label it with green, find a box that it fits in, stick it in the box, and hopefully everything fits.
Making a list and checking it twice.
Let's face it, if you forget something back home, you're not going to be able to run back to Fort Myer to get it.
Wonderful job. Let's go pack for China.
No joint venture, if I might say, is free of some hiccups.
We were originally slated to have a 767, which is a really large plane, and they put us on a 737.
Sergeant Trulove is planning on the 737 plan with the original as a backup in case we get a bigger plane. We don't know about that yet.
We've had to lose 30% of our uniform trunks and 100% of our instrument trunks, and a lot of the other large cases simply because the plane wouldn't accept it. At this time, we don't have a solution. We don't know if we're able to land in the country yet. We don't know what time we're leaving.
No, I'm trying to keep it from getting wrinkled because I just spent like 10 minutes pressing my uniforms, and of course now they get jammed in a box.
No uniform left behind.
That's one of the video boxes.
Right. So I'm gonna. So this is going in here.
Great.
I'm so glad I get to see this. I heard so much about this.
Gift giving is a very important part of the Chinese culture. And so when we're giving guidance about gifts between individual sections, individual members, then between bands, between the colonels, there was also mention that they needed a gift between countries. And the idea came out that we should give something that's kind of handmade and very iconic American. So the suggestion was made that we make a quilt. It was kind of an honor to do this, and I'm hoping they're going to enjoy it as much as I enjoy it.
It really looks like we're going to take Delta in the 747.
Sweet.
That's great.
All right, so we can take your harp.
I woke up early to get one last mountain bike ride in before we left for China. I had an accident, obviously, and fractured my wrist.
Well, we are at Andrews Air Force Base with the U.S. Army Band, and we're ready to embark on an adventure to China. We have lots of shared interests. We're more similar than we are dissimilar, I think. And the common framework of music is a good way to get to know each other.
We have very few chances for cultural exchange with the Chinese military, so it's very critical for us to take this opportunity to ensure that they understand our sincerity and our desire for a good exchange.
These are exotic foods that we normally does not eat.
I'm all about the noodles and the dumplings.
I would try duck.
Like, I don't know, they even sell like
fried scorpion.
Yeah, fried scorpions.
I look forward to walking through Tiananmen Square. Mostly, I'm looking forward to hearing some great music.
We'll be keeping our PAs to a minimum tonight, but I just wanted to check in with you and say welcome aboard.
Yeah, this is going to be a really long flight, so I bought nothing but reading material. That's about all I have in my bag right now is a bunch of books and magazines.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the members of the U.S. Army Band, we love you and we welcome you, and we will take you to China safely and pleasantly. Welcome aboard.
I know the impression that our band members will have when they get there. Wow, a country that 40 years ago had 2 lanes of automobiles. Rare was it to have private automobiles. They were mostly government automobiles. 6 lanes of bicycles. Bicycles now are fortunate if they have 2 lanes of traffic because the automobiles have flooded the streets, and it's reflective of the booming economy.
Well, we made it to China, reasonably uneventful, and got my luggage. Everything went pretty well. Had a good bit of rest on the plane. Unfortunately, it's nighttime here now, so I'm wide awake.
Where's the crew coming with the group?
My role as producer for the Army Band meant that I was in country prior to the band's arrival. I met them at the airport with the PLA production team and the media team that had been assembled for this trip.
How do you learn Chinese?
The pinyin, written in English letters, shows you how to pronounce it.
Is this difficult?
Yes. Very difficult.
I'm not really sure yet. But it's going to be good.
Actually, I went to the gym last night. I only slept for about an hour and a half. And now I'm feeling good, but I know it's going to catch up with me later. At some point, we're all going to probably crash.
Jet lag and the time zone difference. China is 12 hours off from Eastern Time. When we're doing a performance at 3 in the afternoon in China, our bodies are going to be at 3 in the morning.
Today is our first day in China, and as you can see, it is a beautiful day in China. We were able to schedule some time to go sightseeing this morning, which was just such a treat. We went to Tiananmen Square. Beautiful, incredible architecture, and so many people, just throngs of people.
The square is absolutely humongous. I don't think pictures do it justice. This kind of reminds me of the tomb, our Tomb of Known Gnomes here, this monument. Now we're headed back to the hotel, and we're going to get ready for our first musical extravaganza. Right now, the only thing I'm worried about is, or concerned about, is just my own playing, because we haven't had our instruments for a few days.
So now I'm attempting to be able to play left-handed and right-handed, depending on how sore my arm gets.
We are at the rehearsal venue for the PLA band, and we're getting ready for our first rehearsal, which will begin with a joint rehearsal where both of our bands will be sitting together and playing the same pieces, which will be a great chance to reconnect with the people that we saw when they came to the States last year.
Good to see you even again.
Yes. This time.
How are you doing?
That's my daughter. Okay.
It's a great day because we get to renew old friendships, but also make many new friendships. And these friendships are important to you and I as people, but they are also important to our two nations.
The music that we're performing on this tour is very interesting. We're doing a great deal of American music. The Colonel has chosen a good deal of American music to put on our program. One particular piece that I'm excited about is one called The Cowboys Overture, and it's by John Williams, because we're going to play that piece alongside with the Chinese band. So that will be a great deal of fun, and we have really interesting French horn parts in that piece, so we're excited about that. Yes, we will be playing some Chinese compositions as well. We have some in our folder that we've prepared and we've rehearsed, and the pieces that we've prepared, the Chinese pieces, are not, I don't think, that much different from the American pieces. I think they're just in my opinion, music is kind of, there's good music and there's bad music, and that's all pretty good music.
我们解放军军乐团到美国访问演出，应该说取得了很大的成功。对我们解放军军乐团来说，也确实通过跟美国军队的这个同行们做交流，我们增加了友谊，也对美国的军队也有了许多的了解，我们也感到非常的高兴。在这一次，我们去年的访问完了以后，我们也期待着美国的 同行们能尽早的到中国来演出，我们有更好的交流和的接触。音乐是全世界的语言，我觉得这是千真万确的。我们通过那些乐谱，大家看到乐谱以后，我们都有共同的感受，我们都不约而同的都会演奏出同样的曲调、同样的感觉，音乐的感觉。包括我作为指挥来指挥2个国家的那个音乐家来这个演奏，也没有任何的障碍，很顺利进行的。
I will explain what each of these gifts means to us that you will receive. It's traditional in China for gift exchanges to occur at the beginning of a visit like this, and sometimes even at the end. And so the soldiers each presented their counterpart with some gifts representative of their country.
This is green tea because my partner is from West Province, somewhere west of here. So this drink is special.
This is a gift that we got in the oboe section. The Chinese principal oboe player actually wrote this and then gave it to us. So this is very nice. And I'm not sure what it means, but I'm going to find it out.
Help me build some technique.
什么原因？给他用了2个核桃，给他解释一下，还有手镯。哎，这个何老师给他这个，这从中国传统文化。
Yeah, the walnut is a traditional Chinese part.
Yeah. 对吹木管的人特别有好处。
It's very good for the player playing wooden instrument. Make the finger nimble.
告诉他很珍贵的，告诉他饿的时候千万别炸开吃了啊。
This is very precious. When you're hungry, you cannot drink.
I just know. Each member of our band, each member of the military band of China, are individual diplomats. They're musicians first, they're professional musicians, but they also have a sense of pride in themselves and in their country. And they're going to convey that as they're sitting there between rehearsals, as they're sitting there studying the music, learning from each other. And they're going to warm up to each other, which is only possible if people want to be friends.
Thank you.
After the joint rehearsal, they took us on a tour of their military band museum.
And then for the PLA band to bring us here to the museum, the first foreign band to ever set foot in this building, I think is pretty special.
I just noticed that there's a picture of us actually when the Chinese band was visiting us last year. So it's really cool that it's here in their museum.
The more events we can do like this, I think the more it goes to improving not just the military to military, but U.S. and Chinese relationships in a more global way. So I'm very proud of what the U.S. Army Band has done in reaching out to our Chinese counterparts.
At the reception that followed the tour of the museum, it was pretty clear that the band was exhausted from jet lag.
We're going to be fed. We're going to have a banquet here that they are hosting for us, that the PLA band is hosting for us. And we are all tired. Jet lag is starting to set in. And we're just hanging in there.
Take the cup of battle, buddy. It's up high on his shoulder. You can't get it.
While soldier-to-soldier gift exchanges are an important part of the visit, there will also be some official gift exchanges, and one of the most important will occur in Beijing, where Major General Michael Linnington will exchange gifts with his Chinese counterpart. So we're very excited to not only give them a gift, but give them something made by American soldiers.
This quilted wall hanging was designed to celebrate the friendship and cooperation through music between the nations of China and the United States. And finally, Sergeant Baldry and Sergeant LaFosse, who actually made the gift.
Well, here we are backstage at China's National Performing Arts Center. Today we got a chance to rehearse in the hall. When we got off the buses and saw that beautiful building, it looks like a giant egg, like a dome, like a silver dome. It's an incredibly impressive structure. We were all just kind of floored. We ran out of the bus and started taking photos, of course. The place is beautiful. We got into the rehearsal today and we were able to play alongside our friends from the PLA band once again. We picked up our friendships pretty well. As a matter of fact, we're finding out a lot about each other. The more that we get to talk about our lives, our families, how we live, what we do. And it was very interesting. As I say, I think that we kind of live parallel lives. I haven't had much time walking around in Beijing itself, but the little bit of time I have spent in Beijing so far, it's just reminding me that life is the same wherever you go. You know, people are just being people, supporting their families, doing their thing, just living their lives. I think it's really nice that we're getting a chance to really talk with some members of the Chinese military now, and they're seeing the same thing about us.
I think this is an example of what can happen in all of these military-to-military contacts, where each nation has an opportunity to learn from each other. Not only we can learn from each other, but we can learn about each other.
There are experts saying that, like the ping-pong diplomacy, the joint concert between the two military bands is a signal of improving relations of the two militaries.
Well, we're really pleased that we're able to bring two great bands from two great countries together.
能够请两个伟大的国家、两个伟大的乐队在一起。所以说呢，今天在北京啊，又看到了两军的军乐团演奏，非常高兴。
So I'm very glad to be able to see today those two bands are playing together again in Beijing.
The U.S. Army Band is now paying a reciprocal visit to China. We look forward to another close collaboration on the same stage by the artists from both our two militaries. And I'm sure that harmonious, beautiful, and memorable music will once again be contributed to the Chinese audience, and a colorful page will be written into the history of cultural exchanges between the two militaries.
Yes, try to get practice in anywhere I can get it, in the lobby of the hotel, sometimes in the gym. just wherever we can catch it and whenever we can catch it.
So we're on our way to the Great Wall right now, and this morning we were heading down for breakfast, so we were just talking about how great last night's concert was, and went over to get the newspaper. On the front page of the newspaper about China Daily, there was a heading on there, and it was called Band of Brothers, Set Tone. And on the front there was a photo of the United States Army Band along with the PLA Band side by side. In the photo there is Staff Sergeant Dean Woods, our contrabassoonist, taking a photo with his counterpart as well. So it was truly a success last night and documented all across Beijing. When the colonels both came out presenting their bands together on the stage, it really brought a very, very overwhelming response from the audience, and it was actually, you could feel the enthusiasm. It was a pretty special moment.
Here we are in the Great Wall. Great, amazing sight. Clearly one of the wonders of the world.
We just got here from the Great Wall. We're at a military base and we're about to enjoy a delicious lunch before we perform our concert.
The Chinese have been very hospitable to us, and they've returned the favor that we showed their band when they were over in the United States. And we're appreciating it very, very much. Not many U.S. soldiers have eaten in the Chinese mess hall, and an unusual occasion.
In the 6th Armored Division, there we had some kind of teaching class just in 10 minutes. It's just like 10 hours.
This is a military band of the 6th Army Division, the band member of the United States Army Band, and this band will do an exchange, each section with a teacher from the United States Army Band to have a 10 minutes lesson. And then we'll get the band all together and give a loud applause to say thank you to the United States Army Band. Thank you.
It's getting, makes the sound is your two lips.
Like you're throwing.
Jazz? Do you play any jazz? Swing? You do swing?
Rebound. Rebound.
So that's the blues.
With that exchange, I definitely found that despite the language barriers, we're all very, very similar in our approach to the clarinet. We all think about the same things. Their questions were mostly about how can they technically improve, get faster fingers, get a better sound.
They learned a lot. It's my best memory for this trip, I think.
The audience at our concert this afternoon were all soldiers stationed here, and it was very unusual. I don't think I've ever performed a concert quite like that before. The audience were all sitting at kind of at attention. It took a while for us to really break the ice and get them to loosen up a little bit.
I'd like to thank the 6th Armored Division Commander, our host, and everyone involved in making our trip here to China so memorable and historic. The concert our band will perform this afternoon is an example of ways our two armies and our two nations can build and sustain a strong defense relationship, so important to prosperity and stability in the 21st century.
我们两军今天演出的中国和美国国歌。
We play foreign anthems all of the time, but it was pretty spectacular to play the US anthem and the Chinese anthem on a military base in China for the Chinese soldiers.
I was walking along, minding my business, when out of an orange-colored sky, flash, bam, and a kazam, wonderful you come by.
One thing I'm going to remember, this my big takeaway from this concert, was the end of the concert when we were playing Stars and Stripes Forever, and they were clapping along with us. And I just looked out in the audience and saw an audience full of people in Chinese Army uniforms thinking we are on a Chinese Army base playing Stars and Stripes Forever, and they're clapping along with us. That was just a thrilling moment for me.
就是我们市里有自己的军乐队，然后也有这样的表演，但是看这个表演是第一次，然后挺好的，然后你说的挺好的，然后我们不会乐器，但是感觉挺好的。
We're going to have the opportunity to take the high-speed train from Beijing to Shanghai.
Traveling by bus, by van, is one thing. Traveling on that high-speed bullet train, you hardly think you're moving unless you look out the window.
Now that's a trip that normally takes about 14 hours by car, and it takes 5 hours in the train.
I'm guessing it's going to be about 180 miles per hour to 200 miles per hour.
We just got on the bullet train to Shanghai, and the 6th AD had a present for us, a tie clip with a tank on it.
We got a gift. It's a tie clip. Figured we'd make it useful.
This is
is the Beihai fish package that we were given for free, mind you. So those of you who are not okay, I opened it and tasted it. I thought it tasted like beef jerky with a slight fish taste, but apparently the smell.
It's a fishy and salty. It's not pungent or anything like that.
16 grams.
You think it's not pungent? I think it's pretty pungent.
My name is 吴笑，我在解放军军乐团是担任打击乐演奏员。哦，他们的技巧非常成熟，而且，他们很兴奋，同时也很期待。事实上，我是在高中的时候学的打击乐器，然后在大学是系统的学习，在音乐学院学习的打击。
One of the things I've noticed about playing with the PLA band is that the percussion section uses traditional Chinese instruments that we don't have. Finally, a Chinese instrument I can play, the gong.
我们觉得应该，像打击乐应该多和国际上多接触。当然了，这是非常愉快的一种经验，也是非常难得的一次经历。
我的名字叫齐力，我是演奏圆号的。我在乐团16年了，感觉很亲切吧，又见到他们了。首先就是从去年跟他们第一次接触，同时所以那时候就很期待他们就是再回来的时候我们再次见面。知道那个，也是就是像我刚才说的，时间比较短，要不我会带着我的家人还有我的孩子，完了一块儿来一起聚会嘛，见面邀请他们到家里，可能聊聊天，吃点饭啊。
Chinese have been modernizing for the last 30 years, lots of aspects of the country. The easiest to see is just the modern architecture, the skyscrapers rising all over China, particularly in Shanghai.
The architecture had a lot of flair. The buildings weren't your typical box skyscraper buildings. All of the buildings had style.
Where are we going tonight? You know? Where are you taking us?
火锅吃饭 ，hot pot 是吧？吃点火锅 ，eating.
The two French horn sections are about to go out and have dinner, talk a little bit, and get to know each other better.
Definitely, I think we'll bond more. And even though we don't necessarily speak that much of the same language, I mean, they speak a little English. We seem to click really well, so it should be a fun time.
Yeah, when they came the first time, basically our time was jam-packed with rehearsals. We could talk, from chair to chair, stand to stand, but we didn't really get to hang out. So this is definitely the first time for that. Very exciting.
Rob? I know, Rob.
The importance of hospitality. We would have different traditions for hospitality, but whether it's the Chinese or the U.S., you can count on people giving warm greetings, striking up friendships pretty quickly, and really trying to show what it means for their particular culture to be good hosts.
Help. How do you say help in Chinese? Joe me.
Rob!
Yeah. You side have a representative to drink.
敬你一个。
This is ours.
单独敬你，做个代表。代表。
Just one person.
你代表元昊声部。
Go!
I think they chose me because I was a little late coming to the van.
If you finish your plate here in China, that's actually an indication, not that you've eaten until you were full, but that you want to continue to eat, and they'll continue to keep the food on your plate as long as you continue to empty it.
And music.
Yeah.
Music.
Groups of musicians, whether it's a percussion or a brass section or the woodwinds, really coming close together and following with outside of the rehearsals and performances, sharing dinners together and laughing about stories and events, even though for the most part they can't directly speak in any common language to each other.
In my conversations with my colleagues from China, I really had a difficult time because I don't speak Chinese. But I did hear a little bit about their experience and how they get to the point where they are. They attend music conservatories, the same kind of situation as us. I think that we're very fortunate to have so many choices. We have quite a few really, really top-notch schools. And I think that from the little bit that I was able to gather, it sounded like they had fewer choices, but they also have equally fine schools where they study and they perfect their craft before they're allowed to play in their top band.
It is my honor to be here today to present one of America's finest musical traditions, the United States Army Band. I convey the greetings of the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of Staff and welcome each of our guests to tonight's performance. This tour marks the first time that the band has performed in China with their People's Liberation Army counterparts. We are deeply honored that Shanghai, China's largest and commercial capital, is a stop on this tour.
We hope that our performance together will produce harmony that is pleasing to the ear, but also be part of a larger United States-China relationship that is based on agreement and a consistent and sustained relationship.
Tonight our mission is building friendship and cooperation through music. Now, please welcome to the stage, leader and commander of the United States Army Band, Pershing Zone, Colonel Thomas Hall Lanier. Please rise for the performance of the American National Anthem. One specialist of this unusual instrument is famed player and composer Steve Jobs. Xylophone. He made his first solo appearance at the age of 11 and was later called the world's greatest xylophonist. He also went on to transfer a German violin and piano to 4 xylophones. Tonight, we would like to spotlight our own xylophone solo in a tribute to George Hamilton Green, performing Xylophone Ragtime.
It was his fault.
I blame
him. I'm just kidding, man. You're right.
You guys are with us.
Let's just step through completely and go to the right. Let's take our instruments apart now. Just keep walking past the entrance list.
请全体起立。请坐。
When we were in Beijing and Shanghai, it's fairly easy to find someone that speaks English. Here in Nanjing, it is much, much harder. Fewer signs are in English, almost no signs are in English. Even ordering food at places right next to the hotel is a challenge, and this is an international hotel. Being in Nanjing, I think, is definitely more like being in main China. This is a more fluent experience of Chinese culture, so not much English. The food has been an adventure in some moments. When we were in Shanghai, the food was more mainstream. It was easier to find westernized versions of the things that we think of when we eat Chinese food. When we got to Nanjing, the food has definitely been more what I would consider to be authentic Chinese food, which is a little bit harder to encounter, I suppose, as a Westerner.
Fried spicy scorpions. Let's get a close up.
Sure.
Wait, there it is. Lee, are you gonna do it?
Yep. Go straight up.
I can't do it. Don't drop it.
All right. All right.
On the count of 3?
Yep. Let's do it.
Oh. They all right?
Yeah, that was an exciting meal. The Peony Pavilion that we got to see was a breathtaking production, very ballet-esque, and the choreography was so connected and so tight. It was a spectacle. It truly was a spectacle. The music also was very powerful, and the message of this story about love and loss and death, and it really was a moving experience.
九哥。
这是我头一次听美国音乐会的节目，
这是第一次看到这个演出，感觉很酷，特别是那个女高音。
我很喜欢美国陆军剧乐。
The United States Army Band and the People's Liberation Army Band of China is now finished. Good night, everybody.
We are at the hotel of the PLA Band, and we're about to have a banquet hosted by them for us.
Please accept our deepest thanks for everything that you have done throughout this trip to make it such a wonderful experience for us.
我现在要表达对你们来说是我们最深的感谢，就是这次来访华是非常顺利而且很大的成功。
What began 40 years ago with a ping pong match bears full flower today as our bands make music together. Because you have demonstrated to our militaries and to our nations that our people can work together. This is not something that ends here. It is a relationship that will go on for many years. When we say goodbye, it only means we will see you soon.
At the farewell banquet, 2 of our band members were promoted. That is going in the history books, getting promoted by the 2 commanders of the 2 bands in China.
We make sure it stays on by going.
That is probably one of the most memorable things that those soldiers will have in their career. Seeing the 2 soldiers promoted with the 2 commanders is another reminder of how we're trying to promote this friendship and cooperation through music, and I think that highlighted that these 2 groups are working together and they want their soldiers to succeed together and they want to be a part of the successes of their soldiers, and that was nice to see punctuated.
We had a great time with our colleagues from the PLA band, and particularly in our section. It's going to make it a little bit hard to leave them, but this is not goodbye, as the Colonel said. This is just the beginning of the relationship.
For me, the highlight has been the performance done at 6th Armored Division. You know, there's just something that is special about performing for fellow soldiers, and to get to put on a full concert and then to watch our soldiers get to spend time with the musicians in their band and doing some coaching and just talking about music. I think that was the most special time of this.
Friendships have been renewed and people are now talking how can they continue to build upon what has already been accomplished.
I've got several persons, maybe about 10 email address, and I'm going to keep in touch with them. I like them really, and I learned a lot of things from them. that's absolutely not a time for saying goodbye, but saying see you soon. Maybe in US and in China. It doesn't matter.
I feel like the friendships we started forging in the United States are definitely en route now in China, which again, it really does highlight that it does work, that friendship and cooperation through music works.
By having music performed, which crosses all borders, brings people together, we can at least make advances in this relationship, which I say and others have said is so very important. I think we're learning. I think we're learning that there's a way, through understanding, through enhanced communication, that we can leave a better legacy to our children than what we experienced in years past.
Music is just a bridge. Through this kind of communication, we believe that it can be used for the two armies as well as the two countries. I think the goal has been achieved.
For a period of time, both bands, both countries were playing off the same sheet of music.